firstly, these guys are better at introducing themselves than I am, so I think basically just take it away. So Mitch, we'll start with you at the end. And then...
Yeah, the only one without the mic.
Yeah.
My name's Mitch. I'm one of the co-founders of the NFT Daily. For anyone who's not familiar with the NFT Daily, we're one of the industry's leading marketing and media hubs. Definitely the UK's biggest. So if you're not familiar with NFTs and crypto, if you do want to learn a little bit about it, probably a decent starting place. So drop us a follow. Shameless little show there as well.
Nice. Love it, Mitch.
Nothing wrong with that.
You, Fitzy.
Wedge, do you want to go?
Yeah, evening everyone. I'm Wedge. I'm one of the co-founders of the Drivers NFT project. We're two AAA projects minted out in November 22, and we do lots of stuff in regards to driving, really. So sponsor drift teams, have racewear, all kinds of stuff, and I love it. That's it.
Bits.
I'll try and keep it short. I'm not very good
Strap
at
in,
that.
guys, strap in.
Just bring myself back. I'm Neil, Fitzy, aka. Been in the Web3 space a few years, worked for a few companies. I don't know what I am. It's quite interesting. People ask me what I am. I don't really know what I do, but I've done a lot of different things. I've done community management. I've done creative relations for a Web3 streaming platform that was coming to market. Is in market now, but kind of still in beta with Snoop and a UK entrepreneur called Sam Jones. Helped them build that. And then literally this morning, I signed a contract to work with On-Chain Monkey on the marketing and strategy side. So I'll curtail myself there. That's what I do.
Congratulations, mate. Congratulations as well.
Nice to see everyone. It's funny, I was actually here for the Digital Natives Known Origin event in 2021, so it's cool to be here 2 years later. I'm the co-founder of Chimpers. Like Blue mentioned, it's a character collection on the Ethereum blockchain. Pixel art character collection focused on experiences, brand building, and all things community membership, a little like the Bored Ape from the previous PowerPoint. So yeah, excited to chat all things.
Cool. Cheers, guys. So, I mean, generally speaking, this panel is kind of community, PFP projects. I don't know, we got a show of hands. Anyone not know what PFP is? Quick show of hands. No, we're good. Okay, a couple of people. So, I mean, general top line, profile picture project. It's generally kind of generated art, individual traits. So you get your own unique piece of artwork that you can, use in any which way. A bit like what Blue had just said, basically. And this is generally kind of the space that we're in, and it's really kind of community focused for today. So I guess the first thing that I'm putting out to the panel, I won't single anyone out as such, but it'd be good to have a chat about this, is just generally the role that social media plays in kind of the PFP and community space, I guess. I don't know, do you want to sort of chime in first? And anyone else join in?
Definitely. I think since NFTs have kind of bloomed from 2021, like Blue was mentioned on the previous slides, it was very community oriented. NFTs didn't have a lot of kind of utility expectations. And as the years have kind of developed and the space has matured, those utilities have become more kind of demanded, and there's gaming, there's membership, there's bonuses and perks, and one of the more kind of, I guess, more developed things recently in this year, I suppose, is social media and how that can kind of blossom and springboard an NFT brand. And I think just in the sake of Chimpers, our community and character collection, we were very focused on all of those things for the first year or two to kind of develop and bring the community to fruition. But there's only so many people in the NFT space. It's a very small, kind of tight-knit community, and growing outwards, like into a brand building and shaping the IP is only possible really by expanding outside of the bubble. So social media is extremely important, something that we've been kind of working on. We've grown our character collection social media from 0 in the past year to over 900,000 followers through ways that they can interact with the community characters that people know and love in the community, through ways that are native to the audiences that consume social media like Instagram, TikTok, you know, it's very kind of short form content that's, you know, demands a mainstream kind of friendly appeal. And yeah, I think initially those sorts of things weren't really in demand for character collections or people in the NFT community, but I think as we've kind of developed now, if you want to kind of bridge outside and reach the broader audiences, social media is like a very powerful tool. And with the Web3 community, which are all deeply entrenched and, you know, have a very keen fandom towards the collection, there's not really many other kind of IPs that have that, where, you know, like Blue was mentioning, they're creating all of these different things, and it can really, you know, fast track a brand from, you know, 0 to 100 with, you know, an NFT community. So yeah.
Yeah, man. And Wedge, I know I'm in you know, most of these projects, but drivers, you did like a thing called Race Week, and you were telling me earlier about some of the stuff that's been happening on your spaces with the races and stuff. That'd be cool to hear about.
Yeah. So for us, I guess the focus on social media was mainly before our first sort of OG mint. So it's to promote that initial collection and try and build almost like your core OG community of people that believe in you. You know, when we first minted, I'd have like 100 messages a day saying, when we doing this, when we doing that. It's just constant. I just don't get that anymore, because everyone believes kind of, you know, that we're doing it and that we're building. So the race week that you mentioned, we did back in July last year. It was like 4 free mints over 4 days. So if you held a driver, the reason for us doing it was really to do, you know, we did like another PFP collection being kind of the bad guys, vehicles, first chapter of a comic, and then a permit, because we're working on a technical piece about mutability and things. But yeah, with that whole race week, the reason really was to increase the amount of IP so that we could use it for all these other things. And from that now, you know, I guess there's kind of 2 sides to drivers. There's like, I'm one of the co-founders. The other co-founder is a proper dev, but he stays in a bunker and works on all the really complicated technical shit. I don't. I do the collabs and all the fun stuff. But yeah, with the 2 sides, with that race week, you know, I was already getting approached by members of the community purely to say, you know, not just, you know, I own this driver, can I use this IP for something? It was kind of more than that, where people were coming to me with kind of like full business plans. You know, there's like a guy who's wanted to use it in his coffee shop. There's another guy who was like, oh, actually, I've got a race team. I want to put it on this touring cars. And another guy wants to make like a physical product and a physical game from it. And from that, yes, you know, with most of them, I'll be honest, we were like, yeah, we really like it, but we can make it look a bit better, because they're kind of rudimentary. But yeah, so we always help out with the animation and all the graphics and stuff. But yeah, having the community now come to us with these initiatives that they want to run is massive. And it's kind of nice, you know, we're kind of like, yeah, like overseeing it now more than anything. You know, we still have our core stuff that we're working on as a brand, and you know, how to do, you know, lots of clever stuff that we're doing. But yeah, there's kind of separate many different offshoots now. There's like 2 derivative collections where people said, oh, I want to do a pixel collection based on drivers, and it's like, yeah, we can help you do the smart contracts and all the stuff to help do that. But yeah, for us, that's kind of one of the best things of it, is that the community now are just coming up with crazy ideas.
People are racing on spaces and stuff like that. Which is
that was what you mentioned.
Racing on spaces.
Yeah, one of them developed like, it's kind of like a drag race game, but perfect for DJs really. There's no skill at all involved in it whatsoever. It's just kind of betting on it.
What are you trying to say, bro?
No, nothing.
Basically, you sort of were saying it's a bit like the like down at Blackpool, where you put 2p in and the horses kind of, one goes around.
Oh,
you know, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's totally like that. But people lose their shit on their spaces. Like if they win, yeah.
And spaces is, I mean, Mitch, maybe you want to chat a bit about spaces for people that maybe aren't necessarily involved in it, and you know what are spaces. Basically, start with that, and then why they're so important.
Yeah, spaces are basically like an audio podcast. I suppose that's the best way to describe it. It's just 2 people or multiple people having a conversation on Twitter, when anyone can join and listen to the conversation. They're becoming increasingly popular and increasingly popular forum to find out about information, because ultimately it's not all coming from one source like mainstream media. A lot of people in Web3 are probably naturally quite anti-establishment, or at least want to explore another side to the world. And it allows us to hear information and news and stuff from many different sources, which I think one of the reasons why I like it so much. But one thing you touched on a second ago was the power of social media in marketing. And I actually put a post out last week which kind of emphasized this, and I said that content now I feel is the only real marketing that matters, and I firmly believe that. We're seeing like more and more prominence go to like social media marketing. I remember Gary Vee tweeted a couple of years ago saying, invest in social media marketing now, because in a few years you won't be able to afford it. And I think that's becoming increasingly true. More and more people spending time in digital environments. And someone put a tweet out last week, which I thought was true as well, which said, people can own and run a mid-tier, we'll call it, social media account on Twitter, and they can earn what a graduate would earn simply by the opportunities of promoting projects and businesses. And it's something we see firsthand every day. And I think people are starting to come more and more to the realization of the potentials of it. Fitzy's a prime example of that. You messaged me, didn't you, saying all the equipment you'd invested in, and your engagement's tenfold now. He's all over everyone's feed, and he's just got an opportunity.
I mean, let's reduce expectations there.
That's true.
Maybe
Talk
just mine.
to us a bit about that then. Go on, what was that? What did you buy that made you 10 times better?
Well, that's just a barefaced lie. I mean, it's just,
Yeah, I've just got notifications on for him.
no, I mean, look, to be fair, you invested more in the actual equipment before I did.
Yeah.
I mean, the company I mentioned earlier, the Schiller company that's snooping this Sam Jones guy, disrespectful, successful
Only the
businessman.
ex-MD of Wish.
Yeah, ex-MD of Wish, nice guy. But they what was the question? Investing in yourself. And so I in my role there was head of creator relations, but as a non-creator, I certainly didn't call myself a creator. I found it weird to have conversations with these people and try and understand their needs for the product and the functionality that we would put into the actual kit. And so I just decided, probably less than 12 months ago, really, like when I first met you, I didn't do anything. And now I own a green screen. I didn't think I'd say that, but a month ago I bought a green screen. That's kind of random for a 40-year-old dude. I own a pretty nice DSLR. I own radio mics. Sat in my pocket right now, not using them, so I'm not the best at actually getting the stuff going. But content is king, right? And back to the initial question in terms of social media. Like the example I would use in terms of a PFP project that has just led the way in terms of how they've utilized social media, different to everybody else in terms of the methodology they use to bring an NFT brand to prominence, is Pudgy Penguins.
Glad you didn't say on chain monkeys.
No, I'm not going to talk about on chain monkey the whole time. but it's Pudgy Penguins.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a PFP project that did incredibly well and then kind of went flat and down in terms of price and sentiment. It was bought by a guy called Luca for $1.5 million or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Big bags. And he's basically now taken that to levels where it's in supermarkets in the US, in the UK, do these little soft toys. And the way that he did that, a very small part of it was to just infiltrate GIFs on Instagram. So not like, here's my NFT, here's the tech, here's what we do it, here's all the functionality. Just, oh, isn't that a cute GIF? And then you keep seeing that and it keeps going, perpetuates and gets even broader on Instagram to the point where now the IP is famous and people think about it and then go, oh wait, there's digital NFTs I can buy. So that buy behavior will come potentially years down the line. And I just think that's a really simple way that a brand can do it rather than trying to sell everything else. But social media is the product that allows you to do that.
Yeah, and the GIFs are great. I mean, Kate, my partner and mum sent me a Pudgy Penguin GIF the other day. In WhatsApp, I was looking at it, I was like, I can't believe that it's got that far. You know, mother-in-law's sending Pudgy GIFs. But, you know, it was pretty good. And you know, obviously you touched on it. Chimpers are kind of, I mean, I feel like you kind of went there first. And, you know, you've always, with Pudgies, you've kind of been, you sort of, you know, level pegging, certainly going in the same, that same vein, that same mentality.
Yeah. I mean, Pudgies have, you know, completely, like Fitz was saying there, pioneered that kind of approach of let's take a Web3 brand and make it mainstream and friendly where you don't even need to think about the tech behind it. And Chimpers, yeah, we definitely did that. Like last year, we decided, look, we've got this IP and brand that is amazing. We've got this huge community of people, but is it going to kind of touch, you know, outside of this bubble? So we thought, let's create character mascots from our collection and figure out a way where we can do something like that and create it to be friendly and recognizable and something that won't be abrasive. And the best way of doing that, like been discussed here, is through the social media content. And down the line, obviously it's not a quick short-term kind of onboarding way of bringing people to NFTs, but in terms of the fandom for the brand and the IP, there's a lot of longevity to that, and I think a lot of character collections in the NFT space have kind of looked to that and seen it as a brilliant way of building on top of the IPs that have been created with the communities.
It's great. I'm just going to kind of flip it out a bit from social, kind of in the similar vein, but there's part of the kind of diversity of the panel here is actually the chains. So we've got Sol, NFT, and BTC. So we've got NFTs on different chains, and Fitzy's going to talk about Ordinals, which we can maybe we can start there. But I guess kind of what I'd be interested in exploring and seeing if people could kind of understand is the different values, the different approaches across chains, because whilst on the one hand we're saying, okay, well, the technology almost shouldn't matter, it's sat there or whatever, there are quite distinctive mentalities in PFP NFT collections on different chains. So maybe we start with the king of chains and go from there.
I would actually say it might be worth, just from like somebody listening to this conversation, it might be better to go at the end with Bitcoin, because it's interesting.
Because you want to spend ages.
Yeah. No. I mean, you'll cut me off.
Yeah.
But I just think because it's the newer protocol, because it's the newer standard, and because the standard is different, to give the context of how things have been on Sol and Ethereum, and then come through it. Yeah. I mean, I'll do Bitcoin first, but I just don't think it might.
Okay, no, that's fine. Mitch, do you want to hit with Sol?
Yeah, definitely. I'll try and keep it short and sweet. But basically, for anyone who's not familiar, you have different blockchains ultimately, and different blockchains work at different speeds, they work at different prices, so how much a transaction costs and all this good stuff. And traditionally what we've found is people were native to one blockchain, which was all a bit weird really. So like you'd have Ethereum maxis, so people who liked Ethereum, you'd have Solana maxis, so people who liked Solana, and for a bit of time they had a strong hatred towards each other, which was a bit bizarre. But Solana's effectively cheaper and it's faster than Ethereum. Ethereum's probably the more prominent blockchain and has been the most popular for some time. But we've started to see a lot of the Ethereum community migrate to Solana, and probably vice versa as well. So yeah, I mean, if you are interested in exploring it, I am a Solana maxi, so I would suggest Solana's a good place to start. And if you want cheap fees and you want speed, which I'm guessing a lot of people do, but that's pretty much the long and short of it really. I'm going to pass it over to Fitzy because I know you all want to get on for some breakfast.
Well, hang on, we've got the middle bit yet. Wait,
all right,
do you want to chime in on ETH?
Yeah. That's good sales pitch there.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah, so everything that we've done on drivers has been on ETH, but it's kind of a weird one really that our community now, they're not in any way sort of loyal to ETH. Like within the Discord, we have an alpha chat. And they buy across all the chains all the time.
It used to be like a bit
more it used
native,
to be mentality.
Like,
tribal. Yeah,
tribal, yeah.
But even since we launched the Discord in start of 22, even then it was pretty tribal. Whereas now it's kind of not there anymore. Everybody sees the benefits of Bitcoin, ETF, Sol, ETH, Sol, whatever it is. There's so many different projects that get highlighted in that now, and I don't really see that tribalism anymore.
I mean, as far as the split of tribalism, I agree. There's a lot, there's a lot of people kind of mixing. I never really got the kind of maxi bit. I've always kind of explored the different things. But I guess what is kind of interesting is, in my opinion, there is still a different mentality when you're getting Sol NFTs versus ETH NFTs. I mean, I don't know. Am I wrong? Am I right? It feels like there are stuff, and then certainly on the on the ordinal side, because it's sort of so new. Yeah. It's kind of, I don't know. I guess it'd be interesting. I mean, the Sol stuff would be interesting to hear about that, because there's the price point bit, right? So it's kind of the highest. What's the highest floor price on Sol project now?
Good question. I think it's Sol Boogles, but they're a really like curated supply, so it's a small supplier. Don't quote me on this, but I think they're about 250 sols, something like that. But the supply is really small. But naturally, I think the tech has a direct correlation to the type of behavior of users on that particular blockchain. So Solana generally cheaper and faster. So there's a lot of degens, which is basically people who are degenerate. It's a term for that, who like to flip NFTs for commercial opportunities. So they like to buy an NFT and they like to flip it. I'd say Ethereum's a bit more of a mature community. Do you think it's fair to say that?
Yes and no.
You get more art collectors on here, maybe not as keen to flip because the gas fees will take away all your profits anyway. So a lot of the time, it doesn't make sense.
That's interesting to explore for anyone. Like, I'll just unpack that a bit.
Yeah. So gas fees are effectively fees that you pay for any transaction. So think about it as buying something at Tesco and you pay on your card, and say for instance you get charged 5% of whatever the work is on that. In gas fees, so it's a transactional fee, and it changes based on the GUI, which is affected by the price of Ethereum.
Yep.
Yeah.
But on Sol, so how does that differ on Sol?
And on Sol, it's the fees are much cheaper, so there's much less of a transactional fee.
And they're basically fixed, right? It's like 0.0001 Sol.
Yeah. Sol, I don't know if Sol does vary, but if the fees do vary, it's absolutely minimal. Yeah. So one thing to bear in mind if you are looking to trade on any blockchain, if you do want to dip your toes into it, just keep an eye out for those gas fees or transactional fees because you might get stung. But yeah, Amani probably knows a little bit more about Ethereum NFTs than me. Sorry if I dropped you in at that.
Oh, mate. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say on it, to be honest.
I mean, the analogy I use for gas fee is like it's a toll to use the road. So if you want to use that and do that transaction, that's fine. But if there's more people using it, it's going to cost you more. There's congestion. So it's price congestion, which causes the spike in a gas fee. And it can be substantial. Ask people who have tried to mint something like a mutant ape, where everybody else wants to mint it. It can cost thousands.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean, it's from my experience with Sol, you also get a kind of interesting thing where you look at the top projects and the floor price of those projects might be anything from $5 to like, you know, I don't know, 20, 30,000, whatever it might be. The split in the top 10 can be that severe, and it's a lot of the time it's because you're buying something for $30 and you can flip it 5 minutes later for $35 without paying any fees or anything. And that mentality happens quite a lot on Sol. It doesn't really happen so much on ETH, because if you were trying to do that, you've got to wait for it to go up by a couple of £100 before you can flip it. Otherwise, you're just losing all your profits, so there's no point. So it breeds a slightly separate mentality for holders. There's a lot, which is kind of, I'm guessing what you mean by the degen play. There's a lot, it kind of gives you more of that incentive to just sell really quickly. And it tends to keep the floor prices down, which is sort of quite an interesting dynamic across the two things. That does, I feel, lead us to BTC, because this is something you know, I'm relatively new to. I mean, I messaged you the other day saying, can you just buy me this because I'm struggling with my wallet? And you're like, I haven't got anything in my wallet. I was like, oh, for God's sake, never mind, I'll give up.
I don't have the money to spend.
Yeah, sorry about that. I wasn't trying to put you on the spot with that. Well, I was just like, just buy me this before it goes up. But anyway, yeah, talk a bit about Ordinals, because it's kind of the newest, whilst you know, Bitcoin is kind of the OG chain. This is almost coming through like later, right?
Yeah, so,
the NFT side.
So in terms of like, so the token, the fungible token, the actual coin, you know, Solana, ETH, all these blockchains, Bitcoin, you can buy it. They've only really just, apart from things that I won't go into because, you know, there's very particular small examples from many years ago, but let's just say that non-fungible assets like NFTs, like art, like, you know, any, you know, thing like that, it hasn't really existed on Bitcoin until pretty much a year ago to the day, when a guy called Casey Rodemore took a protocol called the Ordinals protocol live. And what that basically meant was they'd figured out the way to have non-fungible tokens made on Bitcoin. And the thing we're talking about here in terms of these different chains and the different, you know, more transactions per second on Sol and cheaper gas fees, it's more like a casino. It's just you can get money quick, and that kind of, you know, for the pleasure receptor in your brain, it's good to just keep pressing the button like a casino. And so that's one type of behavior that you see in Ethereum. Until Bitcoin arrived with its NFTs, you had that as the greatest store of value for culture, for art. A Bored Ape could be, you know, multi-millions. Generative art can also be millions sold at Sotheby's. And that's always existed. But again, as we've said, the price with the gas fees is sometimes putting people off, and it has really put people off to the point where now they are migrating to Sol a lot, like heavily. The last 6 months, those behaviors have changed significantly. But in the meantime, the last 12 months, the build out of the infrastructure and the build out of the tech on Bitcoin is incredible, but it's a lot of tech So I'm just very mindful of trying not to go too deep into that. So I think it's best to demonstrate the difference with a few of the functionalities that you have with Ordinals. So in fact, before I do that, all of these things are on-chain, fully on-chain. If you take 99% of NFTs on these other chains, the actual digital art, if we use art, is not stored on the chain, it's stored externally via a third party. Imagine like Amazon Web Services or IPFS, right? It's not technically on chain. So the asset in terms of a quality it's not as premium, it's not as quality. These things are mediums for data and mediums for art. So Bitcoin is the highest market cap, the most decentralized, the OG blockchain. It is the daddy, it's kind of undeniable in that respect. You'd want to hold a Bitcoin more than an Ethereum, more than a Sol long term, I believe.
There might be some debate on that, but we'll come back to it. Carry on.
Look, if anyone wants to swap a Sol for a Bitcoin, and then I'm here for that trade all day, every single day. So I'm making 3 points, but the things that you can do with Ordinals are very, very different. So not only is it a more premium product, you can store these pieces of data on individual Satoshis, which is the smallest denomination of Bitcoin. It's something like 1 billion per Bitcoin, of which there are 21 million. But you inscribe the data on there, it's immutable, completely immutable, not stored externally. So that gives something value in terms of art or data or real world assets, land deeds, these kind of things. If it's stored on Bitcoin, it's a more robust product. But the functionality, this is something that Sol and Ethereum people don't understand with Ordinals because the tech is still being built out. But the things that you can do on there, they're really quite profound. So someone this week inscribed a Super Nintendo emulator within a PFP, because these things are not just a JPEG stored externally. Bitcoin is now software. And another thing you can do, because Bitcoin is now software, is you can create art generatively but recursively. So using data that already exists on Bitcoin. So if I want to create a piece of art and someone's already created something with color on this inscription 2 months ago, and someone's create something that allows it to move in this inscription, you can call that data on Bitcoin and you don't have to put it on there, so you don't have to pay the gas fee because you are not using it, you are recycling the data that already exists. And so, I can hear myself, this is very technical. Another thing that is cool is you can have a NFT birth other NFTs. And what that means is if you imagine a family tree, we have one inscription, one NFT, a digital artifact is the phrase that we actually use on Bitcoin, because they're immutable, but you can birth other ones. So if we imagine a traditional NFT collection, you would have one, which is the brand, and then from that you use the parent-child method, which gives you the ability to birth these children. And what that means is even if they go on to birth other collections, that family tree is fully on-chain, immutable in 100 years, in 200 years, in 1,000 years, if these things are still being used. That's very different to anything that's ever existed. It's not possible on Ethereum, it's not possible on Sol, it's not possible on these other chains. And this is happening on Bitcoin in a year when we have the halving and the ETFs. And so Bitcoin Ordinals, NFTs for want of another word, is very significant, but the barrier right now is education, because it's very different to these smart contract-based chains that are the standard. So I'll probably stop there.
Oh, that was great. Didn't know half of that, so cheers for that. That was really good. Yeah, I definitely deserve that. Nice. Insight. Just I'm gonna sort of move into where it gets slightly more complicated, which is then PFPs kind of bouncing across chains. But I guess the first question is just straight out the gate. Before we get into this, could you ever see an instance where you guys would take Chimpers and go, actually, we're going to move away from ETH. We're going to go left. We're going to go right. We're going to go multi.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it's been quite tribal for the past few years, like in terms of like maintaining communities on one chain. And yeah, I mean, as we've progressed through this year, obviously like Magic Eden have, released their upcoming marketplace where they're going to, maintain all of the different chains on one marketplace to make it easier to be onboarded and connect with all the different collections that you hold, if you potentially do. And I mean, yeah, I think obviously again, it's a case of onboarding. You maintain this small community on the ETH chain. You only have a limited potential that way. And with Chimpers, obviously, I don't think we'd create a second collection in this moment in time, but we are thinking of, creating this new platform, collectible card platform. So like the tokenization of cards, and obviously that will be built on Polygon with a way to be able to transact through different chains. So it's not just a case of, I have a Chimpers, I can only buy and sell this on the Ethereum chain. Now there's this kind of way for us to scale the Chimpers IP through a collectible card platform, which can be accessed through different chains. And I do think in terms of the future, like a multi-chain approach for collections is definitely something that is becoming more kind of demanded in terms of all of the new collaborations and the crossovers between different chains. And yeah, I mean, even in our community, like was mentioned on the panel before, everybody's discussing Sol, everyone's discussing Bitcoin, and it only makes sense to, converge and do something with everything. So I think to answer the question, I don't know if we'd move Chimpers to a different chain, but in terms of encouraging other chains through any way we can, we will.
Yeah, that's great. Does anyone know what's the term that, so Pudgy Penguins are doing something at the moment where it's not omni-chain.
Multi-chain?
There's a term basically, I can't remember what it is, but they can be on any of the collection can be on any of the chains basically, and they've released something at the moment where you can bounce your Pudgy around from, if you've got it on ETH. Don't know if anyone knows what the term is. Chain agnostic, thank you, that's what it is, yeah. So they're doing like a chain agnostic sort of approach where you can then just get away from everything else, which is kind of cool. But there's one project, D-Gods, which I don't know if anybody knows about. It started as a Sol project. Mitch, I know you were heavily sort of involved in it. It's the only one that I know of. It's just I'm not the oracle or anything, but it's the only one that I know of that's got Sol, ETH, and Ordinal. That's got a Sol, ETH, and Ordinal collection in play all at the same time, all with the same art set, basically.
Yeah, kind of. So they minted on Sol, and then they offered the opportunity to migrate the NFTs over to Ethereum, which a large part did. I believe there's still some on Solana, which came with a bit of criticism and mixed reviews, really, because there's talk of Frank, who's the founder of D-Gods, now moving back to Solana, and he kind of left Solana when it was in not the greatest state of affairs and moved to Ethereum, which was performing really well at the time. And people have kind of called him out for chasing the shiniest, the newest shiny thing, as they call it, which I suppose is fair news. I like the idea of people not becoming too blockchain native and exploring different chains, because if you think about some of the best talent on Solana and some of the best talent on Ethereum, and these guys working together, the opportunities that presents is going to be great for the community as a whole and the ecosystem as a whole. I don't see any massive value in operating a project cross-chain yet, although we might see real value in that in the future. I'm not seeing anyone really successfully do it. But yeah, it's interesting to see. D-Gods have minted on Solana, migrated to Ethereum, and then they launched a Bitcoin collection as well, or an Ordinals collection, which were all inscribed on one chain. So it seems like they're really trying to tap into all the industries as a whole. And all
were they something like Forgotten Gods or something
yeah,
like that? So they gave them slightly different names, but it's all the same art, or it's unused art.
XRD Gods. I actually just bought a couple of those because I think the narrative with them strong.
Flex.
Yeah, Flex. Yeah. No, they're actually like 3 Sol, which is like pocket change.
I was going to buy some.
Pocket change to
Ethereum boys. If he moves back to Sol as well, they won't be exiled anymore. They'll be native, so it'll be fine again.
This is interesting. It was a pre-sale gone wrong, I believe. So they minted them originally, and something went wrong with the mint process, and people basically got told they could keep them. So they are the very first D-Gods ever minted, which obviously has artifactual value in it as well. So yeah, interesting. If you are looking for a cheap entry price to what could be a good project, not financial advice, but XRD Gods I want to look at as well.
3 Sol, what's that like? 10 quid or something?
Yeah, Sol,
well, maybe less.
Sol's probably at about 30 quid now because it's been dropping like the clappers. So who knows?
We've been here for 2 hours. It's definitely
probably
gone
at
down.
0 now. But you might get one for free.
Fitzy, so just sticking on this. So on-chain monkey, I'm just finally got around to the project, so you can chill away. But talk about that. So that's started ETH native, right?
Yeah. So they have migrated. They're the first project, 10K projects to migrate from Ethereum to Bitcoin, and it's very significant. It's very difficult, and it's very expensive to do. the reason they do that is all the things that I mentioned earlier, just in terms of where this is going, this is happening on the mother chain, and the quality of product. They have migrated, but in doing so, there's a bigger picture. We talked about, I forget your name, sorry, mate, but the digital physical relationship, right? Mm-hmm. And like real world assets. And again, the lady was talking about Davos, so I'm really bad with names, my bad. But that is obviously the future, and things will be tokenized. And so the transferring across from on-chain Monkey to Ethereum is significant because they're the first to do it. But what it also does, it also demonstrates the ability to do these certificated tokenization of not a real world asset, but an asset that belongs somewhere else. Yep. So again, without trying to go too technical on it, when you connect your Ethereum wallet with an on-chain Monkey in it, and you want to migrate it or upgrade it technically to Bitcoin, because of as I've said, it's a
better, right?
Better
You've said
product.
it a few times.
Yeah, I don't know. Just trying to get it. I've got my daily quota. But because when they do that, it also on the Bitcoin side gives them they've created, I don't know how they did this, but they've created the ability for it to create a digital certificate of ownership. And so it's interesting to understand that Danny Yang, one of the co-founders of the company back in 2015, along with Bill Tai, the other co-founder, two of the co-founders, super investor, Google Bill Tai, they were speaking to the Egyptian government about land deeds in 2015 in terms of blockchain and bringing those things online. And so what they've basically done here is they've realized that, okay, they were way ahead of the game there, but now it makes sense. If you're going to do a migration, and I don't know all the details of when Decode did it, but I don't believe there's anything like this where all of the history, when you buy on this chain, it still contains all of that data from Ethereum, from when they were launched back in 2021, which again, when they launched that collection, it was the first 10K collection on Ethereum to be fully on chain, not stored via IPFS. All of the imagery is on Ethereum forever. But I've lost the point.
Well, I was just going to jump in on there. So just to explain that a little bit more, what you're basically saying there is that it's not burning the previous iteration and making a new one. It's taking the provenance with it and ensuring that it travels, and you're not starting afresh, basically, which is different to, say, like a burn mechanic if you're just changing to something or
Yeah, and so this is just an evolution of how this works. Someone made a really kind of damning comment, if you're an Ethereum fan, and I own many Ethereum NFTs, just to the record, I'm not a maxi, although I don't own any sort, sorry. Just personal thing.
Too rich.
What was the point? I've done it again. Saw myself out there.
We were talking about carrying the provenance over.
Yeah, and so it's just an evolution of how it's done, and it's being demonstrated that now you can do this. And so I have my Bitcoin on-chain monkeys now, but I still technically own the Ethereum one. We can get into the semantics. You can say no, you don't, but you can't move it because it's in not a burned wallet. It hasn't been burnt. It's been tele-burned, and so it's visible there for you to see it like it were behind glass in an Ethereum museum, but nobody has the key to access that wallet, nobody at all. So the certificate is the ownership of that, and the on-chain data, things above my station in terms of technicality, but it's there for everybody to see on Bitcoin forever. So it's like it's been inscribed in stone, in marble, but more, it's digital, it's completely
better than marble.
It's better than
Bitcoin
marble.
better than marble.
Yeah.
Okay,
Look,
Bitcoin better than marble.
Yeah.
Quote of the night.
Name me a resource. I'll say it's better.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Just talking about. So I've just reminded myself. Burn mechanic, right? So I'm going to do something in a minute when we open the room up to conversations. I'll jump on the computer and do something. But part of the conversation amongst sort of PFP community stuff is how do you keep the community engaged? How do you invite new people in? How do you keep things fresh without necessarily expanding your collection? So, how do you bring new people in or whatever without effectively watering down your collection? So Chimpers is 5555, right? Yeah. And you guys have come up with an interesting way, and the floor idea that you mentioned earlier, I thought was that makes perfect sense. So can you just explain what you guys have done, because it's kind of in this burn mechanic world?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. One of the ways, like you say, to keep the community engaged, to keep the community vibes fresh, was building different experiences through the tech. And quite similar to what was discussed in the previous presentation about scarcity, collectibles, and keeping something unique, was kind of put into this thought of our experience with the character collection of Chimpers. And we built this burn kind of workshop where there's 3 different gem types of NFTs, and if you own one of those gems, you can pair that with your Chimpers NFT in this workshop. And essentially what that does is evolve your Chimpers quite like a Pokemon, and forever permanently remove the old metadata artwork of that Chimpers. So there's quite a risk to your digital identity that you hold strongly in the community, and then obviously you can gamble and choose this brand new artwork. And we introduced 555 brand new artworks in Chimpers, and obviously that means that we didn't have to dilute the collection, didn't have to create a second collection. It just kind of injects a new kind of vibrancy and demand for the artworks. And I'll let you say it means that the kind of floor Chimpers that aren't as desirable, that people may kind of trade and potentially don't want, and kind of floor those, people can then head to the workshop, put those in the workshop themselves, and potentially get a brand new Chimpers that dynamically evolves the collection over time. And also just from a brand perspective, it allows us to be flexible with potentially if we want to introduce something down the road that's on brand, we can do that with this experience. So
it is interesting that with every PFP collection there are always like flaw traits, stuff that people just don't want. They're like ugly or whatever. They might have minted it. They go through. They go, oh my god, that is not great. Blue touched on it before with some of the traits that just don't sit together quite nicely, and you go like, oh, And it's the first time I've seen anything that's a really interesting mechanic where you can basically swap it out without diluting the brand, without ruining it. And actually, what you're doing there is you're improving the collection over time, which I think is great. So we're just gonna kind of wrap it up a little bit there. I'm gonna open up questions. Andy, can you do mic roaming while I just set my computer up? If that's all right. Cheers, everyone. But thanks, guys, for that.
Cheers.
And
So Lee's going to do something on screen. I'll open up for questions. Can I ask the first one? Okay. So like PFPs, so I guess to Wedge, they're obviously like a little bit out of the limelight with obviously a lot of attention on cryptocurrency. Where do you think the next evolution of PFPs is? Was it a moment in time? Where did it go from this point onwards? And that's open to yourself and the rest of the panel.
Good question, man. I certainly don't think that PFPs are dead, but I think it's kind of using those PFPs. We've always looked at it at drivers as that's kind of your access into the community. What we've been doing now for the last 12 months has been a real focus on really kind of getting drivers in front of Web 2 audiences rather than we have our core Web 3 audiences. We've done 70 odd collabs, so I have loads of different collections now and stuff. Like Insight said earlier, it's still a really small audience within Web 3. So it's a tiny amount of people. So yeah, for us, it's kind of taking it out and saying, if you decide to come and buy that floor drive or whatever, actually that gets you, attendance at this touring car championship, or you can go and watch a drift team or get this merch or whatever it is. But it's that key stuff that you can only get, if you have a driver. That's the way that we've always looked at it. And certainly some of the physical products and the different stuff that we've now sort of got in development, all of that is still based around that key sort of drivers OG PFP.
Anyone else have a view on future PFPs, Mitch?
Obviously, as Wedge mentioned, it serves as a great use for token-gated events, environments, for people to flex and all that stuff. But I think what's a good barometer of how relevant PFPs still are is that there's a lot of KOLs, which are like key opinion leaders within Web3, and influencers who were getting 6-figure offers to change the PFPs to certain collections as part of live marketing, which just goes to show you. And we, aside from the NFT Daily, we have a sister company called Net Marketing, and we do a lot of go-to-market strategies, communications, general marketing. And one thing that we always do, because it's a proven blueprint for success, is we look at straight away what kind of ambassadors we can get on in terms of KOLs and influencers to actually represent the NFTs. And when we're talking about ROI and results, it's tenfold to a lot of the marketing techniques that anyone can do. And I suppose that just shows you people are like a walking billboard for your project. Massively powerful.
Thank you. I'll throw out to the audience. Sorry. See you inside. No one here.
Still alive.
Hi guys, really interesting. Firstly, Fitzy.
Sam says hello.
Hey!
Yeah, as does Andy Schiffman.
Nice.
Yeah, I just messaged them, said he did a good job, so came back, he's over in New York. So I know Schiller, I've worked with Sam for a few years. And the question that I talk to Sam quite a lot about is, how do you engage now what is the biggest target market, the mass market? Right? Everything you've said today would have fallen on deaf ears to someone that didn't understand crypto and NFTs. We all understand in this room, but mass market has no idea what you guys have just said. So how do we simplify it so that we can build projects that can actually target mainstream, bearing in mind that less than 1% of people in the whole world have bought and sold crypto or digital asset? So how do we do that?
There's a few ways to answer that. I mean, one is don't sell the features, right? Sell the benefits. The tech is, everyone is too tech forward. We've been, if you've been here for a few years, you have this new lexicon that you use, and it's like a badge of honor that I understand what I'm saying, right? And even the simplest thing, we've had somebody in here, people in here tonight, who didn't know what PFP is, but yet we throw it out there, right? So it's like one is language, two is like hiding the technicality. Like I'm having to stand here and say about Bitcoin because it's just so early, what differentiates it, and I don't want to be that guy. I hate doing it, but so yeah, it's like hiding the tech, putting it more about basic language and understand your audience is another key thing I would say. But I think back to the Pudgy thing, one of the biggest things they did was create GIFs into the GIF libraries on social medias. People love GIFs. The behavior is very predictable and it's very easy to do. And if your grandma was it your grandma or your mum or something who said that you got a Pudgy GIF? That's his mum. So it's find a way to go and think about existing behaviors and go where they are and get them interested, whether it's a feeling of interest, a feeling of emotion, a feeling of something, and then get them into the top of the funnel. When they're in there, the barriers are down, then maybe the education can start. But even then, maybe not straight away. Give them a benefit for what this is. But it's really understand the strategy. Why am I doing this? Gary Vee's big on this. Why are you tweeting this? Why are you saying this? Just really understand the strategy. I'm all over the place here, but hopefully that makes sense. But it's really, a lot of it is hide the fucking tech. It's not sexy. We're all nerds. Most people are not, and so we don't get them with that.